All right, Tiger fans. Now, hear me out. This is going to be a good one. I think this will land okay. It is now time for Operation Get Jimmy Bartel into the Richmond Football Club. Now, first, before we get into that part of it, Ben Rutten, we do want to thank him for his services and time at the Richmond Football Club. Now moving on to head up football at Port Adelaide, which is a massive step up in role, and well done to him. And yeah, he's obviously been with us through some pretty good times and helping out now in the start of the rebuild. But a better job presents itself, and you've got to take it. So well done to Ben Rutten, and we thank you for your time and services at the Richmond Footy Club. So Ben Rutten's title at the Richmond Football Club was Head of Coaching, Performance and Development. And he obviously had some line coaching work along the journey as well, which I think he took a bit more of a back seat in more recent times. But the Head of Coaching Performance, I feel like is a role we do need to fill, because we do have quite a few inexperienced coaches amongst the ranks. We've obviously got Jake Siebel, we just picked up Luke Bruce, Taylor Duray. Chris Newman's not inexperienced. He's maybe inexperienced at our football club in his particular line, but maybe not so much in totality. And Uze is inexperienced himself as a senior coach. So we're a pretty young group collectively, and I think we still need some guidance there. Tim Livingston obviously does a great job behind the scenes as well, but having another head and on deck would be a really good thing. And you would like to think we've got some space in the soft cap based on the fact that we haven't got an experienced array of coaches who would demand the same dollars as what the experienced coaches would. So it kind of stands to reason that we would have some cash to throw around. So if we take a look quickly at some of the potential short lists of names that could fill this role. Now, given the inexperience within the team, probably stands to reason that we are better off going down an experienced route. That would make the most sense. And there's 4 names that I've seen floating around, but I'm all in for Jimmy Bartel, but I'm going to leave him last because there's a little bit to get through with him. The first name I kept seeing a lot of is John Longmire, obviously former Swans coach, but he's the executive director of club performance at Sydney, which I can't see him really giving up, because I don't think it'd be much of a higher job coming over to us. I think what he's doing there would be right in his wheelhouse. So I can't see him being a legitimate option. As much as he would be fantastic, can't see that one happening. Adam Simpson is another one who I wouldn't mind looking into. He's currently still doing the work in the media with his analysis, which he was doing, ironically enough, with John Longmire. And fantastic. The way they broke down the game was exceptional. Has obviously senior coaching experience, and I know it didn't work out well for him at the end at West Coast, but you can see he's got a really good football brain, and I think he could be someone that would be helpful to oversee things and to help guide these young coaches into their AFL journey. Ken Hinkley is probably the other one that I see a lot of mentions about. He's currently doing some mentoring for the Adelaide 36ers, I believe, in the NBL. Obviously has a long-standing coaching career at Port Adelaide. Didn't quite get the ultimate success, but they were a fairly strong side throughout most of it, and I think he would be quite a good person to come across and impart his knowledge again on these younger coaches. I guess what you have to be careful of with Adam Simpson and Ken Hinkley, and I'm not saying this would happen, but it's something to consider, is being former AFL coaches, do they then get the drive and the temptation back to want to coach, and then does that cause rifts in the club and the coaching ranks? That's what you want to avoid. So I guess first and foremost, you'd want to categorically know they don't have any desire to coach anymore. That can change though, right? They might say no, and then in 2 years' time, they got the itch back, and whatever happens, happens. But I think from a mentoring perspective, those two wouldn't be bad picks. I most definitely wouldn't be against that. But the man that I think we should target is Jimmy Bartel. So Jimmy Bartel, as we all probably would have heard throughout the off-season, is held in extraordinarily high regard in football circles. He obviously was going for the head football job at Port Adelaide, but opted not to follow through with that because he didn't want to move his family interstate, which is fair enough. St Kilda was sniffing around. Now, I had mentioned this name a couple of times, and I don't know anything extra in this space. This is purely just me and my wish list. And I was met with a few comments about how can he be like a head of coaching, performance and development if he hasn't coached. Understandable point. But what I do want to say is his current role, and albeit, APS school football is obviously not AFL standard, but you'll get the point I'm trying to make here. His current role at Caulfield Grammar, he's the head of football, which includes and is primarily about mentoring coaches. So he's actually already doing that in his role. So he's responsible for overseeing and mentoring all football coaches and developing a comprehensive plan for the future of the school's football program. That, along with all the other stuff he's done, I think he was on the board at GWS. He's very highly sought after and got some pretty good football credentials. And I do want to add as well, in the same vein, that Chris Fagan never played footy at AFL level, but he's coaching a bunch of AFL footballers pretty well at the moment. So it doesn't always have to be someone who has coached at the highest level to be able to mentor and guide coaches, if that makes sense. And I mean, from a player perspective in his career, well decorated, very well respected footballer. And if he speaks, I would dare say you tend to listen. So Jimmy Bartel would be the one I would go after. And like I said, I'm pretty sure we'll have the cap space in the soft cap to go after any of those names. Maybe there's someone else that I've missed off that list, but they were just the ones that sprung to mind first. But let me know initially in the comments below. Are there anyone else on a short list we should be putting in for this job? I know Troy Chaplin's name was thrown around a little bit as well. We tried to get him across earlier in the off-season, but he's still contracted at the D's. I know, though, that when it comes to promotions and things like that, that clubs do tend to let people go if they're going into a higher role. I'm not sure if Chappie would be suited for that role. I don't really know much about him in that space, but maybe someone in the comments does. But it's going to be fascinating to see what we do here. I think this is a role we definitely need to get right. It's almost, as much as I love what Rutten did, in a lot of ways, it's almost like the final piece to the puzzle to have a full clean slate and a full clean cycle, because he was brought on in the dimmer reign and obviously was the last one standing of the assistant coaches when Teague went and things like that. And it just feels like this is that final moment for the cleanse to be complete. So we do need to get it right. It does, I believe, need to be a more experienced and senior figure. And I guess the argument can be made with that statement, well, Bartel's not really experienced or more experienced than Hinkley and Simpson. And he's not in a coaching sense, but he still does have quite exceptional leadership qualities that I think could be valuable. I think even though maybe having someone older might be good, maybe it's not so good. Maybe we are better off going someone a little bit younger who can be a bit more relatable to all the players and the younger coaches that we have. Maybe Jimmy's style could be a little bit different to what Hinkley and Adam Simpson were doing. So there's a few things to consider there, but yeah, Jimmy Bartel, top of my list. Let's get him at the Richmond Football Club. I don't know what's happening with the approach St Kilda made, but hopefully that somehow fell through. And I'd actually be a little bit disappointed if we weren't asking him the question. But anyway, this is all very fresh, of course. They only come out today. So very much a watch this space, I guess, to see what the club does here. I'm not sure how public they go with who they're going to approach. I'm sure things might come out in the media at various stages. But yeah, let us know in the comments below. Who do you think we should go for? Do you like the people that I've named? Are you all in for Jimmy Bartel? Keen to hear all of your thoughts. Make sure you like and subscribe for more Richmond content. And until next time, go Tigers.